Ferrari just came out with massive news about Lewis Hamilton. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Ferrari news content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hitting that red button down below. So the first story we're going to be talking about is Lewis Hamilton's given brutal 3-race ultimatum at Ferrari ahead of the new F1 season. The former Mercedes driver will race for his new team when the F1 campaign gets underway in Melbourne in Australia on March 16. Now, a well-respected F1 expert has explained how Lewis Hamilton needs to impress during his first 2 or 3 races for Ferrari. Now, Hamilton at 40 will take in the track of the field of Ferrari for the first time at an F1 race when the season commences on March 16 in Melbourne, Australia. Despite being a 7-time F1 champion, joint most alongside Michael Schumacher, he has failed to win the championship since 2020. In 2024, he finished 7th in the driver's standing as Red Bull's Max Verstappen took the title for a 4th consecutive season. Hamilton will be hoping he can become the record holder for a championship triumph this season, and explained how he couldn't be happier after joining the Italian manufacturer. There are some days that you'll remember forever, and today, my first as a Ferrari driver, is one of those days, Hamilton said on Instagram post on January 20. I've been lucky enough to achieve things in my career I never thought possible, but part of me has always held onto that dream of racing in red. I couldn't be happier to realize that dream today. Today, we start a new era in the history of this iconic team, and I can't wait to see what story we will write together. However, X1 expert and Sky Sports commentator Martin Bundle believes Hamilton will need to get off a flying start with his new team. He's got to do that start very well. He's got to use his experience, Brundle told Sky Sports News. And I do completely agree with this, because I do believe Hamilton's time at Ferrari isn't too long. He's 40 years old, and a lot of people do not know whether Hamilton last season was a poor performer or whether the Mercedes car just had a lot of problems. So coming into this season with a much better car, or expected to be a much better car, we should see Lewis Hamilton perform at a high level from the beginning. Now, there are no excuses at this level for anybody, even the rookies, but you might give the rookies half of a season to get their act together. Now, they will expect somebody like Lewis to have aced the people around him and the car within 2 or 3 races, to be honest. Never underestimate Lewis Hamilton, that is what I truly do believe. Brundle at 65 also gave his thoughts on whether Ferrari reportedly paying $57 million to the British driver will be worth it. Unquestionably, he said. 2 of the biggest names in the 75-year history of Formula 1, some would say the biggest 2 names in Ferrari and Hamilton, are getting together. Lewis dressed in all red and the scarlet of the prancing horse, an absolute extraordinary story, the gift that will keep on giving to us. Now, getting to the second story, Zhou Guanyu joins Ferrari as a reserve driver amid Hamilton and Leclerc's Barcelona tests. Now, Ferrari has officially confirmed Zhou Guanyu as the new reserve driver for the 2025 Formula 1 season, strengthening their support following his departure from Sauber. Zhou actually has made history as China's first ever F1 driver and will now serve as a backup to Ferrari's primary drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Meanwhile, Hamilton and Leclerc recently took part in a private test session at Barcelona, further fueling anticipation for the upcoming season. After spending 3 seasons with Sauber, Zhou actually has found without a race seat for the 2025 season. However, his long-standing ties with Ferrari have led to this new opportunity. As a former driver and Ferrari Driver Academy member, Zhou returned to the team as a homecoming of sorts. He will share reserve duties with Italian driver Antonio Giovinazzi, and he also competes in the World Endurance Championship for Ferrari. Zhou's role as a reserve driver will see him on standby in case either Hamilton or Leclerc is unable to race. Additionally, he will take part in Ferrari's simulator program, working closely with the engineers to provide valuable insights into the car's performance. This move also positions Zhou as a strong candidate for a potential return to a full-time race seat in the future, with possible openings at Ferrari or one of their customer teams. While Zhou settles into his new role, Ferrari's star driver Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc have already begun their preparations for the 2025 season, but took part in a private test session at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. where they were seen pushing Ferrari's latest machine to its limits. For Hamilton, this test was crucial in his position from Mercedes to Ferrari, and the 7-time world champion is adopting to a completely different car, team dynamics, and race strategies. Reports suggest that Hamilton quickly got up to speed, posting competitive lap times and providing valuable feedback to the engineers. His ability to adjust will be pivotal as he looks to challenge for an 8th world title, that's for sure. Meanwhile, Leclerc, who has been for Ferrari since 2019, used the session to fine-tune his approach and analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the car. Having narrowly missed out on several race wins in past seasons, Leclerc is determined to capitalize on Ferrari's improvements and establish himself as a championship contender alongside Lewis Hamilton. So it does seem that when it comes to this Ferrari team, they are looking to continue to go all in on these two drivers, because it is not, a really once in a lifetime opportunity to have someone like Leclerc and also have someone, like Lewis Hamilton both in the same team. So it is definitely going to be a very, very interesting time for both of them, and I think Ferrari has bolstered its roster ahead of Lewis Hamilton's much anticipated debut in Scarlet Red to the Australian Grand Prix next month. Securing Zhou Guanyu as a reserve driver for the 2025 Formula 1 season, the Chinese driver who previously competed for Sauber for 3 seasons will serve as a backup to Ferrari's star-studded lineup in Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. And I think this is definitely a very, very good move. Zhou Guanyu having that much experience, I definitely see him doing very well, especially, even as just a reserve driver for this team. Now, on top of this, Zhou's return to Ferrari marks a full circle moment in his career. He was a member of the Ferrari Driver Academy of 2014 to 2018 before transitioning to Alpine's junior program, and despite losing his full-time seat on the grid at the end of the 2024 season, Zhou's new role with Ferrari keep him closely integrated into the F1 paddock, ensuring he remains in contention for a return to the grid in 2026. Now, getting into the third story, Ferrari and Hamilton gear up for 2025 amid Pirelli tire testing in Barcelona, as there are also a lot to it. Now, Ferrari is collaborating with McLaren for the slick tire test, an event distinctly different from the private tests recently conducted with older cars. Since this session is being run under Pirelli's supervision, teams and drivers had no direct input into the testing plan and lack of information regarding the specific tires being evaluated. The primary focus is on assessing the latest construction developments for the 2026 tires, specifically the 3 hardest compounds in the range C1, C2, and also C3. Under newly introduced FIA regulations, teams are permitted to modify their cars to reflect the downforce and performance parameters expected in 2026. The downforce for these mule cars has been reduced by approximately 20%. Aston Martin, in a previous mule car test, was even required to keep its DRS system open to better simulate the expected concerning balance of future vehicles. While McLaren has opted to modify an MCL60 from the 2023 season, Ferrari has made adjustments to its 2024 car for this purpose. Despite these modifications, the regulations strictly prohibit the testing of any actual 2026 car components. Teams must adhere to FIA guidelines, ensuring that the test remains strictly focused on tire development rather than providing a competitive advantage. The rules explicitly state that cars must include and are limited to the minimal modifications necessary for the purpose of testing development tires or for testing components or systems on behalf of the FIA for future championship seasons. This means Hamilton and Leclerc will not gain insights into the actual performance of Ferrari's 2024 Challenger. Nevertheless, the session will provide Hamilton with valuable experience in Ferrari machinery, particularly in understanding power unit characteristics, cockpit controls, and procedural adjustments. It is understood that Ferrari also ran its SF23 for a testing of provisional cars. Now, on top of this, on Tuesday, allowing both drivers to familiarize themselves before stepping into the 2024 car. Now, this test involved both McLaren and also Ferrari is a part of the larger sequence of outings conducted by Pirelli for the development of the 2026 tire compounds. The testing program initially began in September with Aston Martin, followed by wet tire evaluations with Mercedes at Magny-Cours in October and Alpine in November. Meanwhile, speculation continues to grow regarding Hamilton's potential impact at Ferrari in 2025. With a storied rivalry ahead established between Hamilton and Max Verstappen, many are anticipating another championship battle should Ferrari provide competitive machinery. Since his last championship winning campaign in 2020, Hamilton has found himself largely absent from title contention, while Verstappen has dominated the sport, securing 4 consecutive titles. Questions have been raised about Ferrari's decision to replace Carlos Sainz, also with Hamilton, and particularly given the Britain's struggle in qualifying against his former teammate George Russell at Mercedes. In several instances, Hamilton himself admitted to not being as competitive as once was. However, former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya has expressed confidence that Hamilton remains a formidable competitor. According to Montoya, Hamilton's perceived decline is more reflective of Mercedes' underperformance rather than the loss of his driving ability.